In this video, you are going to learn about constructors. A constructor is a type of method that allows us to create objects from the class and initialize the data of an object. Every time a new object is created from a class, the constructor of the class is called, which means that the constructor is used. So, the syntax for creating a constructor is: you write the keyword public, followed by the class name, open brackets, and in the parentheses, you write the parameters, which we'll talk more about in a second. Then you open braces, and inside the braces, you write the body of the constructor. So in the syntax, the parameters in the parentheses are used to initialize the attributes of the object. Parameters are basically variables entered by the user when they create an object from the class. These variables will connect to the variables that we declared before the constructor, which store the attributes of the objects. For example, in the dog class that we created, these are the variables that we declared before the constructor. The class will collect data from the variables entered in the parameters, and it will use that data to initialize the data and attributes of the object. It is important to note three things about parameters. Firstly, they are not necessary. You can just leave what's inside the parentheses blank and not enter any parameters. This will be called an empty constructor. Secondly, the variables in the parameters are usually parallel with the variables declared before the constructor. This means that the variables should be suited to store the same kind of data that the variables declared earlier store, because eventually you are going to set these variables equal to each other. And thirdly, the variable names of the parameters should be different from the variable names of the instances that you declared before the constructor. Also keep in mind that there can be multiple parameters in a constructor, and each parameter is separated by a comma. Now, let's use constructors in the dog class example. Constructors, just like many other concepts in programming, make more sense once you see an example of them. Following the example of the dog class from the last video, we will now create a constructor in this class. Using the constructor syntax that I showed you earlier, to create the constructor, I would write the keyword public, the class name, open parentheses, and then I'll write the parameters, which are going to be string dog name, comma, string dog breed, comma, int dog age, comma, string dog color. And then I'll open braces, and here I'm going to write the body of the constructor. So remember that the name of the class should begin with a capital letter. So that's why the name of the constructor also begins with a capital D. So first of all, in this code, notice that the variable names in the parameters of the constructor are parallel to the variables declared before the constructor. Just to clarify, this is the constructor, these are the parameters, and these were the variables declared before the constructor. I declared the variable name, which was of type string, and in the parameter, I declared the variable dog name, which is also of type string. Both of these variables will store the name of the dog. Note that the types of variables in the parameter must also be parallel to the types of these other variables. For example, the parameter variable dog age is parallel to the variable age because they are both going to store data, which is the age of the dog. And both of these variables are of type int. They must both be the same type. Now also notice that the variable names in the parameters are different from the other variable names. Although they both indicate the same thing, for example, breed and dog breed indicate the same thing, which is that they are going to store the breed of the dog, but they have different variable names. This is important because these variables play different roles and we need to be able to tell the difference. Now, inside the body of the constructor, here's what we are supposed to do. We are supposed to set the data of the variables that we declared over here equal to the data that we get from the variables in the parameters over here. So this is how you initialize the data of the object. So I will write name is equal to dog name, breed is equal to dog breed, age is equal to dog age, and color is equal to dog color. Now this constructor is complete. In the next video, I will show you how to create an object from this class. That should help you understand classes and constructors a little better. Don't worry, these are concepts that take time to understand, and over time they will make more sense.